Serving their community is who they are because they love where they live. REMAX 3D Real Estate is proud to bring you Heart of Greenville, a video series dedicated to celebrating all the wonderfully great things about Greenville, Texas. On every episode, Denisha Denny will share Greenville's story through the stories of people who call Greenville home. This is Heart of Greenville.
Thank you so much for watching Heart of Greenville, where we get to hear the stories of the wonderfully great people of our community. I asked Dana Cash to come onto the show because of her level of involvement in the community and being a small business owner. Here's my conversation with Dana Cash. Hey y'all, I'm Denisha Denny, your host of Heart of Greenville, and today we are in 6303 Buena Vista Drive in Greenville, currently listed by Taylor Clark with REMAX 3D Real Estate. Today, our guest is Miss Dana Cash. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
I am fantastic. I'm so glad it quit raining today.
I know.
So, Dana, I know that you are the proud owner of Greenville Trophies here in town. So, anyone who has needed a trophy or an award or anything for the last, how many years? How many years have you had Greenville
14
Trophies?
years.
Okay, for the last 14 years.
14 years, yeah.
Have gone to your shop.
Right.
I know we have plenty of times.
And I appreciate that very much.
Yes. And I'm super excited about the new Double Dog promotions and merch.
Right.
Can't wait for you to tell us more about that too.
Great. I'm excited for it too. It's time to branch off a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you and I have already talked about a couple little things that we're going to be turning in for you for that too. So coming soon. So Dana, you know, you and I have known each other for a long time, and we were talking about how in the world did we know each other? It's definitely through ordering those trophies and being in and out of Greenville Trophy.
Right.
But I really got to know you when I was serving with you in Rotary, and that was where I really got to know your heart,
Right.
And your passion, and just how excited you are for life and for our community. And so I felt like you were a great candidate to come on of Heart of Greenville with us and really talk about our community. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. And I know you're a big boob too.
That's true.
For those of you that don't know what that is for Bras for the Cause. And there are 3 of you, right? 3
That is
big
correct.
boobs?
We're the co-chairs for our local breast cancer fundraiser that is called Bras for the Cause Hunt County. And there are 3 of us that work together to plan that event each year.
That's awesome. Well,
a
thank
good
you
project.
for that. Thank you
You're very
so
welcome.
much. And I know that's getting ready to launch. So you're probably knee deep in all of that at this
We
moment.
are boob deep in all of the
deep.
details. That's right.
I love that. Well, great. Well, Dana, I want to talk about your story. I want to know, where did you grow up? How did you get here? I happen to know you didn't grow up in Greenville, and so I'd love to know how you got here, and then also how it came about that you own Greenville Trophies, and talk about your husband and your family, but just share with us about yourself.
Okay, great. I grew up in a small town in southwest Arkansas. It's called Ashdown. And if you picture the shape of the state in the southwest corner where it makes that little divot, my hometown is right there in the corner of that. Aww. And we were on the north side of the Red River, so it's not like I'm from the hills of Arkansas, we're kind of from the flatlands. I am from a blue-collar family. Ashdown is a mill town, a paper mill town, and my dad worked there and retired from there. My mother was the manager for State Farm Insurance there, and so my brother and I went to school there and graduated there.
How fun. So are you the oldest or youngest?
I'm the oldest by 7 years. I have a little brother, but he does have more gray hair than me.
Oh,
So.
You're going to have to send this to him just so he can hear you say that.
I know. But I started out in Arkansas, went to college in Magnolia where I met my husband.
Okay.
So that's where we met each other and married, and then made our way to Texas. So
How fun. So where did he grow up?
He grew up in a really tiny town called Bloomberg, Texas,
Okay.
in far, far east Texas.
Ah.
So, yeah.
So how did he end up at the same college you were at?
Basketball. He was a
Okay.
basketball player in high school, and was known at the time as Flash Cash. He will tell you he was not very, quick, but that's what his nickname was. And he went to school there on a basketball scholarship. He did not finish there on a basketball scholarship, but that's how he started.
That's how he started?
That's how we met, yeah.
So I was going to say, how did you meet in college? What were you doing to meet one another?
He was in a fraternity, Phi Lambda Chi, and I was moving into a dorm room with a friend of mine from a nearby town, and I was moving into Abby's room, and we heard some strange sound at the windows, and it was in a really old dormitory building. And we walked over to the windows, and there were about 4 or 5 guys down there that were throwing pine cones at the window, trying to get our attention. And so that's how I met Staley Cash. Is that
How
he was
sweet is
throwing
that?
pine cones at my window. So romantic.
That is so romantic. That's so cool. So how long did you guys date them?
Probably maybe 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, he graduated a little ahead of me, and we married and moved to Dallas. And I finished my degree at North Texas. So,
And what was your major?
home furnishings merchandising.
Really?
Totally out there, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually was doing, was working on a marketing degree at Southern Arkansas, and whenever I transferred to North Texas, I saw people on campus with these huge portfolios under their arms, and I, had some friends in class that said, "What are you working on? What is that?" And I thought, this really suits me. That's really what I want to do. And so I changed my major as a senior in college. My mother almost killed me, but
Oh, I bet.
I loved it. And I went to work at the World Trade Center in Dallas in a furniture
Really?
showroom. Yeah, I loved it.
Fun. I can't see you down there. Knowing you today, like
I know.
you're down in the downtown, and
You never
the
know
World
where
Trade
people
Center.
will land, do you?
I know. Now I'm like, how did you get to Greenville then?
I know,
So
I
what
know.
did you do? What did Staley do while you were also working at the World
Staley,
Trade Center?
this was early in our marriage, and he first worked as a headhunter, and then got a real job at State Farm Insurance. And
Did your mom have anything to do with that? Your family?
they kind of made some calls, but he had some friends that worked for State Farm as well, and that was back in the 80s after the big savings and loan kind of thing all
Right.
happened, and jobs were a little bit scarce whenever we had gotten out of college. And so we went to work at State Farm and went to work in underwriting, and got on their corporate fast track, and we started moving around the country. So we first lived in Dallas and he worked there at the regional office, big office on Preston Road. There were probably 2,500 people there in that building. And he worked for a fire company, so he was an underwriter for fire insurance, home insurance, boats, jewelry, all of that stuff. So he got on the corporate fast track and started moving around. We moved from Dallas to Tulsa, and they opened a large corporate office, original office there, and we had our first son, Tanner, when we lived in Tulsa.
What did you do while you were in Tulsa, other than have a baby?
I know. I started out working for a small wallpaper company. The guy that owned it was one of my customers from the furniture showroom. So he said, "You move to Tulsa and come on, I'll give you a job there." And I did that for a little bit. And then there was a little old man from my hometown who had a manufacturing company there called Energy Exchanger Company. And they made these giant heat exchangers for the petroleum industry. And so they're like huge radiators, cooling units for petroleum, big, huge sites. And I worked in the purchasing department there.
Okay, I was like, how is this going to tie in?
So lucky for me, I was a great typist in high school. And Mr. Shermer, who's the little old man who hired me, he just wanted to give me a job. I knows what it was, because we made it all the way through the interview, and he gave me the job and told me what my benefits and vacation was going to be and all this stuff. And he went, "Oh yeah," he followed me out the door. He said, "By the way, can you type?" I went, "Yes, sir, I can type."
Was that a prerequisite to
It really was. That was
purchasing?
the whole thing my job surrounded was typing up purchase orders.
That's so
We did
sweet.
that. We lived there for about 2 years, and then Staley was transferred to their corporate office in Illinois, Bloomington, Illinois. And so we moved cross country with a 2-month-old, and to the Great White North. It was frozen there forever, but it was fun, and we made a lot of great friends during that time frame.
How long were you there?
We were there just under 2 years.
Okay.
Had another baby.
Had
That's
another
when Hunter
baby.
was born.
You like to
And
move and have babies.
I guess so. So it was just a great time. And Staley was working on special projects for State Farm at the time, and he had come to the Dallas State Farm office. I was at the end of my pregnancy. It was getting really close for a
man.
baby to arrive. And Staley had this special project and was in Dallas over the New Year's holiday, launching this big computer thing that they were working on. And my due date was, I think, January 3rd. And so we were like fingers crossed that he would make it home and the weather would be good and everything. But luckily he met some people at that Texas office who really loved him and loved his personality and his energy. And he came back home. I had the baby a week later. And by April 1st, we were moving to Texas. And so that was Dan Bonnell, thank goodness. I always tell him I want to hug your neck every time I see him for getting us back down in the South and
Getting you
close to
back.
home. And yeah,
Yes.
it was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. I know. I was on the edge. I was like, did he make it? Did he make it?
He made it in time. He made it in time.
Born?
Hunter was born in a whiteout snowstorm, and everybody at the hospital was ready to go home. Everybody was waiting on that baby to come so everybody could go home and get situated in the snow.
There's not a lot you can do to make that happen a lot faster.
No. That is true.
Oh, wow.
But
That's exciting. What year was that? When was
that was
Hunter born?
1993.
Okay. Okay. So you came back to Texas then.
Came
in
back to
93.
Texas. He was working at the regional office, still State Farm, and was in management. I went to work there at this point because I thought, as the trailing spouse, that was the term of the 80s. And it was tough each time we moved to start over and get a job and get your seniority in a job. And so I went to work for State Farm as well in underwriting. So I also did the same thing. I was in the Dallas metro area, East Texas area. Actually, West Texas area at first, and then ended up in the Dallas metro area as an underwriter and management.
That's awesome. Did you ever consider being a stay-at-home mom?
Not at that time, but I was working on it.
Okay.
So yeah, Staley ended up leaving that company and took another job in Las Colinas, and he traveled quite a bit. And by this time, we're in Plano. We lived right around the corner from the grocery store. I would need to run to the store and get a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, and it would be like 45 minutes,
Oh, wow.
just
That's
because
a
of
long
a
time.
lot of people, yeah. And so we started looking for a way to maybe find a lake house or to find something so that we could get our kids in more of a country setting like we grew up. And that's what brought us to Greenville. We started looking for a lake house in Club Lake area. Staley had an aunt and uncle years ago that had a cabin out there. And he loved to come and spend time with his Uncle Bill and Aunt Nelda at Club Lake. And so we started watching the Dallas Morning News, looking for classified ads. And one Sunday morning, I was reading the paper and I went, this could be it. This is a little tiny ad, 2 lines of text in the classifieds, the boring, little bitty mice type classifieds. And it said, lake cabin for sale, East Texas, and a phone number. And that was Lisa Patton's phone number.
No way.
Yeah, she was selling her lake house, and Staley and I called and talked to her, and we ended up buying her home. And we loved being at Club Lake, and that's kind of where the spark for Greenville started, is that we loved Club Lake, and we liked the people that we met, and loved the people and everything there was to do here in town.
What time frame was that?
We bought our cabin in 1998, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were going back and forth each weekend and spending the weekends at Club Lake. And it got to be, every weekend we didn't want to come back to Plano. We were staying later and later, and we had to get all the boats and the toys out of the lake. And, Staley would say, oh, you take the kids and go on home. I'll just drive into work tomorrow morning, on Monday morning. And so he was working in Las Colinas from Plano. He had about maybe a 45 or 50 minute commute from Plano. When he started driving in from Club Lake, it added 15 minutes to his commute.
That's all?
That is all. And it's because of how we were situated in traffic in Plano. And so he said, that's really bizarre. It's only 15 minutes more. So Staley went off on a business trip. I had my laptop out one night, and I put together a little spread, pros and cons of staying in Plano, raising our kids there, and maybe we could make the move to Greenville, Texas. And so that's how the thought started. He got home from his trip, and I said, I want to show you something. I've got some pros and cons here. What do you think? And so that's what got us to Greenville, Texas.
How funny. I can totally see you doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Doing your little, on your computer, putting in pros to move to
Yeah.
Club Lake, cons to moving.
I had to process through all the...
Did
my
that help
pitch.
you decide if you were going to pitch that or not?
It did help me decide.
Okay.
And I knew that there were certain things about the Metroplex that I love and loved, and there were a lot of things about the Greenville area that I loved. The main thing was that Staley and I grew up as country kids, and we rode mini bikes and four-wheelers and, played outside. And that was hard for our kids to do in the Metroplex. And we really, really wanted our kids to be able to have some good outside run around, be kids time.
And have that experience.
Absolutely. It was
something
really important.
to not be in front of a screen.
Right.
And be able to be outside and
Right.
learn to have these stories,
Right.
for when you grow up and whenever, I'm sure they went crawdad fishing and
Absolutely.
fishing.
They
And,
called it Turtle Heaven. There was a special little spot where they would go and feed the turtles and see what they could catch.
oh, how fun. So how old were the boys when you guys moved here?
We
And did you move to the cabin full time?
we did move. We had kind of a big house in Plano, and then we moved to the cabin that was really tiny. And we moved when Tanner was a 5th grader, Hunter was a 3rd grader. So
Okay.
we moved full time in 2001 and to live at the lake. And it was best decision ever. I don't regret it a single day. We don't still have that home at Club Lake. We still have our membership there, and we ended up buying some property with a little bit of acreage. As the crow flies, it's
Oh,
maybe
wow.
a mile away from Club Lake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's something that is really hard to come by. Club Lake is a really hard.
It's a hot market, hot property.
It's so hot, yes. And just, it's such a sought after
It is.
location. And
It's almost like a little lost in time place. So
It
many
is.
homes have been the original, not many of the original ones are still out there. A lot of it is turned over to the really, large homes now, but
But we have acquired a lot of wonderful people that lived in the Metroplex and have come to live at Club Lake, and then they plug in.
Right.
People like Bill Roston,
Right.
who they just plug into our community. And we could list tons of people that live at Club Lake
True.
today that have really given back and plugged in and
Right.
just made Greenville their home. So
Right.
I'm so thankful that ad was in the paper. So shout out to Lisa Patton.
I know.
for putting the ad in the paper to get the cashes here.
I know. We drove out, took a look at the house. There was a big rainstorm happening, and we tromped through the rain and mud and made an offer. So.
I have always said in real estate, if someone wants to go see a home in the rain, they're going to buy it because you
Never
don't
know.
get out in the rain to go look at a property unless you were really in the market.
We were
and really
seriously
wanna buy.
searching.
Yes, you
Yeah.
were. That's so awesome. So your boys went to Lone Oak, I guess.
Went to Lone Oak School. We were on the west side, so I went to Lone Oak School. Another funny story there. This is the thing I love about this area too is people are very welcoming. We were the outsiders moving in, and that's not really. I mean, it is a thing, but it's not a thing. You've really got to get plugged in, and you just come right into this family. But the very first day of school, I dropped off the boys, and you walk them in when they're that small. And I ended up going to the little convenience store to get a donut and coffee, I think. And there was a line of people that were checking out, and some of them were moms. And I could overhear there were a couple of women standing behind me. And they said, "Well, I don't know who it is, but the girls are already talking about this cute little boy with the blonde hair and the big blue eyes." And I kind of listened and listened. She mentioned the little girl's name, and the other mom said, "Well, who's the kid?" "I don't know. They've moved from Plano, and the little boy's name is Hunter. That's all I know." And I turned around and went, "I'm Hunter's mom. How are you?" And that ended up being my best friend. We met in the convenience store line. So
All because Hunter was a cute
I
little
know,
boy.
I know. So it ended up working out really well. I made a lot of great friends right off the bat.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you came in with that open heart and open mind and to meet people. And if you
Right.
had not said that right then at that moment, you would have missed that opportunity
Right.
to have your best friend. So
So-
that is really cool. What did you do when y'all moved here? Were you
I
staying
was
at
a
home?
stay-at-home mom.
Okay, so you did become a stay-at-home mom.
We
then.
offset that house payment and my salary from the big job that I had. And I was really on a track that I wanted to spend time with my kids. I wanted to slow down a bit. And I knew that Staley was traveling a lot, and it would just be easier if I was home a little bit more. So we made that happen. It was a little bit of a sacrifice, but it was a good thing to do.
Was it?
Yeah.
How did it feel coming from being in corporate America where you had a name, you had a purpose, you were climbing that ladder to being at home? Because those are two totally different things. So
Right.
did you have moments that was really hard and that you missed the corporate world, or did you just go all in and never look back?
I was pretty ready for that. I plugged in immediately with the Lone Oak concession stand. That was one of the ways that we met a lot of people, is that we volunteered on Friday nights to work at the concession stand at the football games, and we met everybody. We met the teachers and the coaches and the kids and the parents and everybody, and it was a really great way to get plugged in. It was we gained so many friendships that there was so much to do. I volunteered, for PTO and made lunches for teachers and stuff. So I kept busy. And I enjoyed it.
You were
I
all
would
in at
I would
that.
go sit out on my dock and do nothing and drink coffee and look at magazines if I wanted to too. I loved it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did Greenville Trophies come into play then? Like you were the stay-at-home mom and
Right.
doing all that.
Staley ended up, as you know, corporate has its ups and downs, and went through a little bit of a corporate reorganization with a company, and ended up working as a consultant, and was trying to get a deal. As the time he was doing this consulting work, he was working on a deal, and the deal would like click along, and it would be really hot, and everything was working, and then something would happen, the bottom would fall out of it, and they would start fresh again. And so he had his group of folks that he was working with, and working with investors and stuff, and he had, in this meantime that he's working as a consultant and working from home, he got really involved in the scouting program here. He's an Eagle Scout, or boys are Eagle Scouts, and Staley was the scout leader for Lone Oak for a few years, and he had gone into the trophy shop to pick up an order of trophies for an event for scouting, and he left, got a phone call, and it was one of those calls that, we're going to have to start from, we're back to square 2 or 3 or whatever it was on this deal. And he turned around and he walked back into Greenville Trophies and said, Miss Bonnie, I've been in here a few times with these scouter things, and I hope you won't be offended, but I'd like to leave you my card. If you ever decide to sell your business, I sure wish you would call me. And she went, hey, it's for sale.
Oh,
And it's been for
wow.
sale for 6 months. So that's how that came about. Bonnie
Wow.
and Gary Greenwood invited us over to have a discussion with them, and we talked about the business, and they were just golden to us.
They are the
such great
sweetest people.
Right.
Yes.
They took us under their arm. Staley worked with them. They didn't want us to just jump into the business. They said, why don't you come try it out first? It's a big thing.
It's a big
It's a lot of
commitment.
deadlines.
Yes.
It's not for everybody. And
they
Staley went to
served.
work for them, and I was working downtown by this time,
Okay.
and for Trust Services. And so Staley went to work for Bonnie and Gary to kind of see if this mom and pop business was something we wanted to do. He was a little bit turned off on corporate at the time. And so he did that, enjoyed it. Bonnie and Gary took us on a trip to Las Vegas to see the big trophy and awards show, and
Oh,
said,
how fun.
not going to sell you the business till you see the potential. You've worked in it for a while. And our eyes opened bright and said, wow, there's a lot to this. And that's how we got started. We came back, bought the business, they trained us, and it's been great ever since.
Did you leave Trust Services then
I
at
did.
that point? And so you and Staley worked
Gave my
there
2-week
together.
notice, worked there together for maybe 3 weeks. The deal that he had been working on for all this time came together, and then it was like, hello, Dana, you're now a trophy wife. So,
I love that, trophy wife.
I know. So I had to
How funny. You
I
quit your
stepped
job
up.
thinking that you were going to do this
partnership
business with your husband.
right? Family business.
Tapped out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that story. I knew the Greenwoods had owned it before, and I knew that they love that business with their whole heart.
Absolutely.
And you and Staley have done the same thing, though. I mean, it's not often that someone buys an existing business and the new owners take it on with that much passion and
Right.
heart. And you guys have really done that. Well, Trophy Wife really did that.
Thank you very much. It's been fun. It's been it wasn't necessarily what I thought I would do whenever I got out of school.
Right.
But I've always been more of a creative person, and have had some kind of coloring book, color box jobs, and this is one of them, because I can do so much creativity driven projects with this that it's a
Yes.
lot of fun for me.
I know. I love when I come in every year to do our awards for our annual gala. You and I sit down and we talk about, okay, these are the awards. Let's do
Right.
something fun, and let's do something
Something
outside
special.
the box.
Yeah.
And you always help me do that. So I appreciate that so much.
You're very welcome.
Well, okay, just real quick, let's talk about your new venture.
Well, I have decided to branch out a bit, and Greenville Trophies and Awards has stood us well in 14 years, but people have a tendency to think that what we do is just trophies, and we do so much more than that. And the Double Dog promos and merch is going to be a line of my business that deals specifically in promotional products. We have a lot of experience with company stores here locally, and have great knowledge and great vendors that we can help people find great products for their businesses. And so Double Dog promos and merch is going to be a coming thing. We'll look for that in the next few months for sure, and we'll make that transition over to maximizing our line of products that we sell.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're doing it because honestly, I think of Greenville Trophies and awards, and that's what I think of. I don't think of promotional products. And so I think that's outstanding. And can you tell us how you came up with the name Double Dog?
Absolutely. I am, people around here don't really know this, but people around home do. I'm a little bit of a daredevil. When I was a little girl, I was always double dog daring people to do stuff. So that's one of the things that brought me to that name. And the other thing is I have two beautiful dogs that I love, Nemo and Rodo. And I think they're pretty iconic fellas, and I wanted to work them into a logo and use that name. So that's
awesome.
how it came about.
I love that.
Thanks.
I love both of those reasons.
So I double dog dare y'all to come on over and let's work on your business and get some things going.
Love it.
You're welcome.
Well, I have a question that I'd like to ask you. And
Okay.
the show is Heart of Greenville. And so we like to talk about what people love about our community.
Right.
So share with us a little bit what you love about Greenville. Now that we know how you got here, we've heard that you have been serving in our community. And so tell us what you love.
One of probably the top of my list is the heart of the people that are in this community. I'm really involved with Bras for the Cause. I was involved with Rotary for several years. And in both of those groups, I became active in certain projects like the Haunted Landmark or the
Yes.
Haunted House. And it's a great way to make friends, but it's also you see people's true hearts and how much they're willing to do for other people. And I've seen that with Bras for the Cause. A lot of people make a big deal over, the big boobs manage that or plan it or whatever, but that would never happen if it were not for the groundswell volunteer great hearts of the people in this area that make that happen, because it would never happen if people didn't make bras, vote on bras, come out, set out the signs, all of those different things. And I absolutely love it. We turn over those numbers at the end of the Bras for the Cause evening to see how much money came in that year. And if you look out over the crowd that's there, everybody gets a tear in their eye, everybody's grinning so big, and it's one of those moments where you think, I helped do that, and that's really awesome. And so that's the thing. This community, more than anyone I've ever lived in, has banded together to get things done here.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
That speaks volumes. And you've lived in lots of communities all over the country, so that is awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your heart with that. And I have one final question for you.
Okay.
And here it is. I know you don't know what it is, so we're going to lay it on you right now. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and how did you apply it?
Well, he didn't give this to me personally, but this is one I'm hanging my hat on lately.
Okay.
Ray Wally Hubbard has played several concerts in Greenville and around. I've seen him live several times, and I follow him online and read his book and everything. And he has this quote that he says that you just need to find a good vibe and waller in it. I think that now, more than ever, with everything that's going on in this year, and it's weird and strange and awful and terrible and funky and horrible this year could be, I think it's really critical that everybody finds a good vibe and just goes with something good, and let's get through this and rock on.
I love that.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great 2020 mantra, for sure.
And beyond.
And beyond. That's true. And beyond. I know. We need a new one for 2021. We've got to have a new one.
Come on, New Year's Eve. Let's go.
I think it's going to be the biggest New Year's Eve celebration ever.
So too.
So, Dana, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're very welcome.
I'm so proud to know you and get to serve alongside you. And thank you for what you've done in our community. And I look forward to continuing to serve with you going forward.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for all you do, too.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye.
Thank you for watching Heart of Greenville. This video series, which is designed to celebrate Greenville, Texas, is spearheaded by REMAX 3D Real Estate.